Ericksonian Hypnosis and the Utilization Approach. Hi, I'm Hypno Heather, and I'm going to go through some of the main differences between an Ericksonian approach and other approaches to hypnosis, and also the utilization technique from Milton Erickson. I'm going to use the book Speak Ericksonian by Richard K. Nongard, which is a great book if you want to delve more into how to bring an Ericksonian style of hypnosis into your practice and into your sessions. In his book, he refers to the other book, Therapeutic Trances by Stephen Gilligan, which is where this summary of the main differences between an Ericksonian approach and other approaches comes from. So, this is a resource that I'm using for this lesson today. Now, first, in an Ericksonian approach, the uniqueness of each client is celebrated. No two clients are the same. No two processes work with everybody the exact same way, and everybody has unique needs. Throughout the experiential learning process, the learner is actively engaged in posing questions, investigating, experimenting, being curious, solving problems, assuming responsibility, being creative, and constructing meaning. For those of you that may be just starting out, this is really great to know right from the beginning. Right from the get go, you'll see that there are certain approaches or ways of working with a certain issue that may work for one person or 10 people and not work for the next five. So it's good to go in right from the beginning with an understanding that everyone is unique and therefore what they need might be unique too. The second difference is that Ericksonian hypnosis is an experiential process of communicating ideas. Those who learn Ericksonian hypnosis are becoming experts at communicating experiential processes with other people. Third, Milton Erickson, in his approach to hypnosis and creating cooperation, believed that each person has within them generative resources. This is really beautiful. And again, as somebody that has been practicing for 10 years now, it's something that as you learn, you see that we all have within us, whether we are the hypnotherapist or the hypnotee, the client, so to speak, we all have within us those generative resources. And Milton Erickson had polio at some point in his life, and medicine wasn't really able to do much for him. And pretty much they thought he was done. And Milton Erickson looked within himself, within the power of his own mind, to utilize those muscle memories so that he could begin his own process of physical as well as mental and spiritual healing. So he learned about experiential healing through experiencing it for himself. Fourth, trance and Ericksonian hypnosis potentiates resources. The focused concentration or the heightened awareness of the hypnotic state draws our attention to things that we otherwise miss because of the business of our experiences outside of the trance state. And trance itself is a useful state. So often I meet new hypnotists who think it's their words that are important in the process of change, says Richard. They worry, what if I get the word wrong? Or what if I say something wrong? And really, Milton Erickson's position was that trance itself was far more valuable than the hypnotist's words. I'll say this again because I think especially every beginner hypnosis practitioner needs to hear this. Trance itself is far more valuable than the hypnotist's words. just being able to put them into that space or guide them into going into that space has so much value, has so much healing potential, where they have access to their own innate inner wisdom without the noise of what they think they know and what they think they should do and what they think they should have been able to do or should be able to do now. Once that noise clears, then the real life, the real innate wisdom can come out. Fifth, Gilligan points out that Ericksonian hypnosis views trance as a naturalistic state, something that occurs in everyday life. So Richard says it's really not how do I hypnotize somebody, but how do I utilize the naturally occurring states that we're already in? Right? He speaks to parenting trance, teaching trance, relaxing and watching TV trance, paying attention trance, praying trance, or even golfing trance. Whatever it is that you do in life is a form of trance. And the real question is not how do I hypnotize someone, but how do I utilize the naturally occurring trance phenomena that our clients present to us in our office. Six, Ericksonian hypnosis also differs from other approaches in that Ericksonian approaches are really oriented to life course alignment rather than to a perspective of error correction. We're not really trying to fix what's wrong. In fact, one of the presuppositions of NLP, which was heavily influenced by Erickson, is that there is no such thing as failure, only feedback. These words are usually attributed to Gregory Bateson, but really they are at the foundation of Ericksonian approaches as well. Erickson approached the problem of life course alignment as the task of hypnosis rather than error correcting a person's life. You might want to take that one in a little bit. So, really, Erickson focused on achieving the goals of needs of the present self, not in understanding the past. Because again, if I may jump in here for a moment, in my work, I work with that innate wisdom, that access that we all possess to our own inner being and our own ability to connect to universal mind and tune in and tap into the resources that we have. And even though we may be in the present moment experiencing something in the past or from the past, we're actually still experiencing it in the present moment if we're experiencing it now. And as a result, there's so much benefit to being able to work on what is coming up and what is happening in the present rather than go into that, older kind of Sigmund Freud idea that we have to go back into the past in order to find the initial sensitizing event so that today we will be okay. Now, Milton Erickson really focused on achieving the goals and the needs of the present self. So that's a big difference. And I will still use regression when needed in my practice, but I also know that it's not actually always needed, or maybe even often needed, when we're really focusing on solutions and finding what is needed to be done to create alignment for the person's evolution and ultimately transformation. Now, the seventh way that Ericksonian hypnosis is different from other approaches is that unconscious processes are recognized as operating generativity and autonomously. Whereas earlier forms of hypnosis were based on the client doing what the hypnotist ordered or suggested. Ericksonian hypnosis recognizes that the client's own mind creates the experience. and therefore the change. This recognition allows us to move from the model, that old model of long term therapy. In decades past, it was not unusual for a client to see a therapist several times a week for 12 years with little improvement. Erickson's goal, as well as Richard's goal and my goal, and that of many good hypnotists, is for their clients to function without them. So, this is really about, again, empowering and creating transformation, which is a new form. This is really looking to provide a solution. I know from being a hypnosis trainer since 2014 that often psychologists or other therapists would take my training because they were burnt out, because they were actually really tired of having to deal with or talk about their clients' issues week after week after week. And they needed to find something that could help them, but also their clients move on. And we're so thrilled to learn hypnosis, use hypnosis in their practice, and then have some clients not need to come back and others going, great, now what? Now what can we work on? So, this is a fantastic approach to creating and empowering your clients to move beyond the issue of the moment. Now, the utilization approach. Another term often used to describe Ericksonian hypnotherapy is the utilization approach. One way to summarize this approach is to say that Ericksonian utilized whatever tools his clients brought with them. Often those tools seem to be part of the problem, but Erickson utilized them to facilitate a solution. So Erickson accepted clients not where they could be or should be, but where they were. He used their frame as the foundation for therapy. He never devised his own theory of human behavior because he said then clients would have to fit into that mold or theory. He wanted to be able to use their frames as their foundation for therapy. Like Carl Rogers, Milton Erickson thought that it was important not to impose the therapist's values, beliefs, or biases in the process, but to operate from the perspective that our client has brought to our office the resources that they need to change and that they will tell us what those things are, right? Again, they have it within us, and it is really great for us not to assume that we know what they need because one, it's better, it takes the responsibility off of our shoulders, and two, it's far more phenomenal. And the results are amazing when we really see, or when they get to that within themselves. This utilization approach. So here's an example. Milton Erickson was not a Procrustean. Procrus was a Greek bandit in mythology, and he stretched out his victims onto a bed. If they were too short for the bed, he would stretch them out so that they would fit the bed. If they were too tall for the bed, he would cut them down to size. This is, by the way, a story from Greek mythology that Milton Erickson actually told in hypnosis. So when we say that Erickson was not a Procrustean, we mean that he fit the theory or the therapy to the client rather than fitting the client to the therapy. He used the client's behavior that they brought to him. This is what is meant by utilization. For example, in the induction process, the authoritarian approach would be to say, now it's time for induction. So go ahead and close your eyes, breathe in and breathe out, and relax the muscles of your body. You are now going into trance. In contrast, Milton Erickson would actually utilize whatever experience was going on. So if somebody was sitting across from him and talking, and maybe they were just tracing one of their fingers, the fabric of the pocket of their pants, Erickson would say something like this: I noticed that you're brailing the fabric of your slacks. That was one of Milton Erickson's lines. We might say, I notice that you're moving your fingers along the pattern of your pants. Or I notice that you're starting to settle into that chair. What a brilliant line, though. And of course, back in the 50s and 60s, we didn't have the same resources for the blind that we have now. So Braille was an exciting new technology. I notice that you're brailing the fabric of your slacks. When he said that to the client, it really engaged the person who was probably doing it unconsciously into the present moment, causing what NLP calls a pattern interrupt. This is just one example of how Milton Erickson utilized whatever the client brought to him. And so we can see how there are these ways of not only bringing our clients into a more present solution based, they've got everything, all of the resources in them that they need in hypnosis, but also for the hypnotist. Because what happens is that as a hypnotist, going in, knowing this, and knowing that you can utilize whatever is going on in the moment and the resources that every client brings with them, it's so much more relaxing. It can give you more confidence and you can get better results because your way of working with someone else is truly personal. It's truly client to client, person to person, and takes on a real human first approach. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little segment on Ericksonian hypnosis and the utilization approach. If you'd like to reach out, you can find me on all platforms at Hypno Heather. And also with the Momentum membership, which is a hypnosis practitioners membership for anyone wanting to really have a community of support and live coaching and videos and resources to grow your hypnosis business to the success and the dream that you imagine it can be in your mind. Ciao for now.